The 7 scariest mysteries of the Bible you have never seen before. Bible mysteries. The Bible does not simply contain light and positivity. It also contains countless scary things such as extinction, punishment, and death. Many people will only want to show you what is good. Most beautiful things in the Bible. But right now I will show you the topic 7 scariest things in the Bible. Prepare yourself to enter a world filled with darkness and terrifying secrets you cannot imagine mentioned in the Bible. Before I start our journey, please subscribe my YouTube channel and click the bell so you don't miss any latest videos. Thank you. Number 1. Shakespeare slip his name in Psalm 46. The close affinity of Shakespeare and the King James Bible is suggested by the following fantastic fact. According to some theories, William Shakespeare was called upon to add his artistic touch to the English translation of the Bible done at the behest of King James, which was finished in 1611. As proof for this idea, proponents point to Psalm 46 and allege that Shakespeare slipped his name into the text. Since Shakespeare was born in the year 1564, then he would have been 46 years old in 1610 when the finishing touches were being put on the KJV. The 46th word of the 46th Psalm is shaken, the 46th word from the end of the same psalm, ignoring the final Selah, which is not part of the psalm, is spear. In Psalm 46 King James Version, in the words 46 forward and 46 backward, we will have the name Shakespeare. This theory began to circulate in 1902. However, in reality, it seems much more possible that one of the translators of King James Version of the Psalms wanted to put up a hidden homage to Shakespeare on the occasion of his birthday. Knowing his obsession with the Book of Psalms, he matched these 2 words that form his name with the number 46, the age he was at that time. In fact, to this day, there is still a lot of debate around this topic, but after all, they are just conjectures for posterity. There are no historical sources that actually confirm Shakespeare's connection with the King James Version of the Bible. And to have the perfect number 46 in relation to Shakespeare, we must remove the word Selah. If Shakespeare was really involved in this translation, why didn't he remove the word entirely? Many opponents of this theory believe that the perfect number 46 is just a coincidence and has nothing to do with Shakespeare. Number 2. The disaster that destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah is real. The biblical account says that Lot, his wife, and their daughters lived in one of these cities, which God, fed up with so much immorality, had decided to destroy completely with a rain of fire and brimstone. We are faced with one of those biblical stories that seems too incredible to be true. Sodom and Gomorrah are 2 of the 5 cities of the plain referred to in Genesis 13:12 and Genesis 19:29 that rebel against Chedorlaomer of Elam, to whom they were subject. At the Battle of Sodom, Chedorlaomer defeats them and takes many captives, including Lot, the nephew of the Hebrew patriarch Abraham. Abraham gathers his men, rescues Lot, and frees the cities. Later, God gave advance notice to Abraham that Sodom had a reputation for wickedness. Abraham asks God, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked?" Genesis 18:23. Starting at 50 people, Abraham negotiates with God to spare Sodom if 10 righteous people could be found. God sends 2 angels to destroy Sodom. Lot welcomes them into his home, but all the men of the town surround the house and demand that he surrender the visitors so that they may know them. Lot offers the mob his virgin daughters to do to them as you please, but they refuse and threaten to do worse to Lot. The angels strike the crowd blind. The angels tell Lot, ... the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Genesis 19:13. The next morning, because Lot had lingered, the angels take Lot, Lot's wife, and his 2 daughters by the hand and out of the city, and tell him to flee to the hills and not look back. Lot says that the hills are too far away and asks to go to Zoar instead. Then God rains sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah and all the plain, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. Genesis 19:24-25. Lot and his 2 daughters are saved, but his wife disregards the angel's warning, looks back, and is turned into a pillar of salt. Yet a team of archaeologists seems to have uncovered evidence that indeed these ancient cities were, in fact, authentically destroyed by a rain of fire and brimstone. But scientific theory does not speak of the fury of God, but of a meteorite, which disintegrated shortly after touching the city, causing an explosion 1,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. The shocked inhabitants of the city were instantly blinded. The air temperature rose rapidly above 2000 degrees. Clothes and wood immediately burst into flames, and swords, spears, and even pottery began to melt. Apparently, behind the biblical story, since the dates and the area coincide, there was a historical fact. It is estimated that in this rain of fire and brimstone, some 8,000 people died instantly in the city. It is clear that Lot, who was a relative of Abraham, survived this cataclysm. Otherwise, he would not have survived and obviously could not have told the tale. Lot survived because he fled to the mountains in time. This story is an example of God's punishment for those who are cruel and disrespect Him. It is also a reminder and admonition for believers to worship and respect God. The genocide of the two cities of Sodom and Gomorrah reminds us of the genocide of the dinosaurs. Rain of fire, brimstone, and extinction creates a scene identical to hell. Obviously, Bible believers and non-believers will have different answers to these questions, ranging from divine intervention to the cruel nature of the cosmos. The irony of this biblical story is that having been saved from the destruction of these two cities, Lot, in the caves to which he fled, was drunk and raped by his own daughters. Even though Lot and his daughters were protected by angels, they were not considered people of integrity. The incest between Lot and his daughters is one of the 6 most famous incest cases in the Bible. Number 3, there are 5 horsemen of the apocalypse. The horsemen of the apocalypse are surely among the most famous characters in the entire Bible. Their influence on popular culture is tremendous, both in movies and video games. However, this is where you can ask a question: how many are the horsemen of the apocalypse? Surely you are tempted to say that there are 4. In fact, that's what they are called, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: war, famine, plague, and death. But if we read the source in which these characters appear, that is, the Book of Revelation, written by John of Patmos in a state of deep trance, we find that there is a 5th horseman. According to the original version of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in the Bible, that is, the revelation of John the Patmos, we all know that there are 4 horsemen representing the first 4 seals in the Book of the Lamb. The first is the rider of the white horse. For many, he represents the Antichrist, and his riding implies his arrival on earth. The second rider is the rider of the red horse, whose name is revealed in the book, and is war, implying that after the arrival of the Antichrist, a period of terrible wars will follow. The third rider is that of the pale horse and represents hunger, which implies that after the wars there will come a tremendous famine on earth. Next comes the fourth rider, that of the black horse, which is death. Many believe that this is the final horseman, but if we read the text of the Bible, it clearly says that at death, Hades came close to in Revelation 6:8. Therefore, there is a 5th horseman, and it is Hades, which in that New Testament context was the name given both to the abode of the dead and to the brother god of Zeus, who guarded it. For later Christians, Hades became a synonym, or rather an allegory of hell. The panorama of this prophecy is bleak. When the Antichrist arrives at earth, it will be followed by terrible wars and a huge famine, and after this, death will wipe out most humanity from plagues, among those who have not yet died either of hunger or wars. But the most terrible thing is that the 5th horseman, hell itself incarnate, is the one who will come last, swallowing the bodies of those who die. Perhaps the 5th horseman is so terrible that he has somehow been eliminated from the popular story, and we are always left with the first 4 horsemen. But there he is, closely following death itself. Hades or hell would be the 5th horseman, according to many. Number 4, biblical predictions about the time of the end of the world. The Bible addresses the issue of the end of the world at different times, both in the Old and New Testaments. In fact, he dedicates an entire book, that is, the Apocalypse, to talking about the events before and after that end. Jesus Christ, in addition to having proclaimed himself as the Messiah, was also a prophet who foretold the end of the world, for nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be pestilences and famines and earthquakes in different places. And all this will be the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Many will then stumble and give themselves to one another, and hate one another. And many false prophets will arise and deceive many. And because iniquity is multiplied, the love of many will grow cold. Matthew 24:7-12. According to the prophet Daniel, Daniel's people, that is, Israel, would be attacked by what he himself calls the king of the north, the king of the regions of Assyria, which is what today would be Iran. During that time, there would be an anguish never seen before. Jesus alludes to this prophecy in his sermon. Today, in the same lands alluded to in the Bible. We see terrifying conflicts that in everyone's mind seem to anticipate nothing less than the much-feared event, the Third World War. Number 5. There may be no hell in the Bible. You, like many others, think that hell is a place for the souls of evil people. They can be burned by eternal fires and tortured along with Satan and his demons forever. But the truth about hell in the Bible is not at all like what you think. In the 66 books that make up the Bible, there is no description of hell as a real place. To understand what hell is according to the Bible, we must refer to the words that English translators have translated as hell. These are the Hebrew word Sheol in the Old Testament and the Greek word Hades in the case of the New Testament. What is Sheol or Hades? In Psalm chapter 6, verse 5, we learn that Sheol or Hades is the collective tomb of mankind, the abode of the dead, where everyone, both good and bad, goes to rest from their deeds. This is what most Jews believe today and what the early Christians believed. The word hell derives from inferus, that is, that which is below. That is, the grave, the earth, the tomb. It is not a place of torment, and is certainly not described as such in the Bible. No more and no less, the hell that you know, that of Dante, full of demons, dangers, and unspeakable punishments against sinners, does not exist in the Bible. In the Bible, fire is simply a symbol of destruction, not torture. According to the Bible, in addition, demons and eventually evil people will be thrown into the lake of fire, which is a huge garbage dump where they will burn and cease to exist forever. That is, it implies that they will be destroyed, not tortured for all eternity. Number 6. Humans used to eat their own kind in the Bible. In ancient times, a very common war tactic was the so-called siege or siege. That is, in military jargon, to surround a city and prevent anything from entering or leaving it for an extended period of time. The invading troops could besiege a city for months or even years to provoke the surrender of the occupiers who succumbed to hunger, disease, and thirst. The situation of people in a besieged city could be dire. In the Old Testament, we find several prophecies spoken at different times, in which the Israelites are warned that if they departed from the scriptures, they would suffer curses and be besieged by their enemies. They would go so hungry that they would eat their own newborn children. This is how we read in one of the books of the Bible, Deuteronomy, "Then you will eat the fruit of your womb, the flesh of your sons and your daughters, which the Lord your God has given you, in the siege and in the distress with which your enemy will oppress you." Deuteronomy 28:53. It describes the extreme suffering that the Israelites would endure as a result of their disobedience. The imagery of having to eat the flesh of their own children is a horrifying and graphic depiction of the severe famine and distress that they would experience during a siege by their enemies. Samaria was a mountainous region. In the military siege of Samaria, the hunger was such that the mothers made pacts with each other to devour their children alternately, first the child of one and then, over time, the child of the other, as a form of rationing, so that the flesh of the children would last longer. In the case of the biblical story, one of them, already satiated by the flesh of the first son, did not want to give up her own son, and so complained to the king himself, who was horrified. There is abundant archaeological evidence that such situations of interfamily cannibalism in besieged cities were prevalent in biblical times, and in the case of the Bible itself, they even fulfilled a terrible prophecy before. Number 7. The number 666. 666 is the scariest and most famous number in the Bible. If the Bible mentions that the number 7 symbolizes completeness and perfection, and 777 is considered the number of God, then the number 6 is imperfect because it lacks 1 to become 7. The number 666 words, it is also described as the number of the beast or the symbol of Satan. According to the last book of the Bible, 666 is the number or name of the wild beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that comes up from the sea. Revelation 13:1, 17:18. This wild beast represents the global political system that rules over every tribe and people and tongue and nation. Revelation 13:7. Furthermore, 666 also represents another figure, the greatest nemesis of Jesus, the Antichrist. The biblical Antichrist is not like the one in the movies. The original appears in the book of Revelation and is described as a wild beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, with crowns and diadems on them. According to the Apocalypse, it emerges from the sea, yes, as a kaiju, and its name, according to the Bible, is simply a number 666. On the back of this beast rides a prostitute named Babylon the Great, who in the description of the apocalypse is drunk with the blood of all the saints. But beware, it is not the only beast of colossal proportions that appears in Revelation or even in the entire Bible. In the apocalypse itself, other beasts are mentioned, one of them with 2 horns, described as a lamb that speaks like a dragon, who is identified as the false prophet. He is the one who asks the inhabitants of the earth to worship the beast. All these figures of beasts that emerge from the sea are inspired by the oldest book of Daniel in the Old Testament. With the guidance of this, we can interpret that, in reality, all these monsters were an allegory of the time to refer to aggressive and hostile powers and governments. That is, they were clearly not real beasts, but an allegory. For many theologians, the 666 beast is the succession of world powers that oppressed Israel, from Egypt, the first head of the monster, to the British Empire, its 7th and last head. The truth is that few enigmas have captivated the imagination more than this apocalyptic beast called 666. For 2,000 years, theologians, numerologists, believers, and even atheists have been trying to decipher the meaning of that number and the identity of the fearsome wild beast. Countless books have been written about the wild beast itself, often identified as the Antichrist himself. Countless books have been written, countless films have been made, thousands of paintings have been painted, and of course a multitude of songs have been composed in his honor. The wild beast is the most twisted and disturbing mystery in the entire Bible, the one that has most influenced popular culture. The worst thing is that it may be the omen of something so terrible that it has not yet arrived. This is why the beast 666 corresponds to the number 1 of this top, for being the greatest mystery, the most widespread enigma, and the most disturbing question, moreover, that the Bible contains. And that practically closes it there at the end in a kind of golden finale to leave us thinking without ever finding an answer. When the veil is torn away, the darkest secrets of the Bible are gradually revealed, making us surprised and shocked. But God not only created light for us, He also created darkness. And as a matter of course, light alternates with darkness, just like holiness always goes hand in hand with evil. God shows us the best, but He does not cover up the bad, because He wants us to distinguish between good and evil. Horrible crimes and dark secrets are springs that help spring up holiness and kindness, and are also reminders that we always need to aim for the light and follow the right path of righteousness. What I'm showing you today is not to belittle the Bible. I'm just bringing another side of the Bible. And whether it goes against your beliefs or not, those mysteries are always there exists until today. I hope this video will bring you valuable values and help you understand the Bible more deeply and comprehensively. Don't forget to like and share this video with your friends and relatives. I'd also love to see your thoughts on this video in the comments, so feel free to share your thoughts. See you in the next videos and God bless you.